Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another class in our Diabetes University. My name is John Bredenberg. I am a diabetes educator in the Employee Wellness Program here at UF Health Jacksonville, and I welcome you back. And if this is your first program, welcome. As many of you know, we developed this program to basically give persons with diabetes or persons, family members with diabetes, connections to information that will help them lead healthier lives. And every month we have a different topic, and we come together and present some information and also get a chance to ask some questions of the speakers. And this month, we are pleased to be joined by Nick Tennant. Nick Tennant is in our office. He is our on-site Gator Care Wellness Coordinator, and he actually has developed some pretty good mindfulness programs here in our office. And I thought it'll be good to bring him on board to talk about mindfulness-based stress reduction, or using some of the tools of mindfulness to kind of help mitigate stress, because as many of us know, once stress starts to really complicate things, it can really wreak havoc on our blood sugar levels. So these tips are going to be very helpful for you, and I think you'll learn a lot. Now, at the end, I'll be dropping in some information about the post-test. Really, we just use that to take a little attendance, since this is a virtual program. So I'll drop that in the chat. And then at the end, I'll also share some information about our next session too. So Nick, if you're ready to go, we are all yours.
Awesome. Thank you, John. And hello, everyone. And thank you for joining. I'm happy to be here. It's always a pleasure to talk about mindfulness, something that I hold very near and dear in my heart, and I find very useful as a person with anxiety and stress and all these components in my life. I found it a very useful tool to really help manage that in a positive way. So we can really look at how stress impacts our health, especially with persons with diabetes. So join for me. And if you have any questions, you can always type them in the chat as we go along. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. But what I want to do first is I want you to go ahead and close your eyes and think about your morning. So this morning that you just had today. Now, what I want you to do is think about the first thing you did when you woke up this morning. Did you roll over and hit snooze for the 10th time? Did you, first thing you got up, went to the restroom, brushed your teeth? Did you grab your phone? What was the very first thing that you did this morning? What conversations did you have? Did you have conversations with loved ones, maybe friends or coworkers? Maybe you didn't have any conversations at all. Can you recall any conversations that you had? What about breakfast? Do you recall what you had for breakfast? What about your coffee, if you had coffee or tea? And if you use cream and sugar or anything else, do you remember how much you put into that? Were you cognizant of how much you were putting in, or were you just eyeballing what you were eating and consuming? What sounds did you hear before you went to work? Do you vividly remember maybe birds chirping in the trees? Did you hear the wind, construction, other cars, noises from kids or neighbors? What about on your commute to work? If you drove, do you remember which red lights you hit? How about any other cars on the road, or what you listened to on the way to work? Was it, some music? Could you recall the songs that you listened to? Did you listen to the news, some podcasts? Or how about this one? Did you put on your seatbelt when you drove to work today? Now, you may be saying, yes, I did. I did all these things. I can vaguely remember them. But that's the point. Our minds tend to race, right? We are always running. Our minds are running faster than we can go. So oftentimes we aren't in the present moment. We aren't fully immersed because our minds are so stressed. Our bodies are so stressed that we can't really focus on the present moment. And so when we talk about mindfulness in general, mindfulness, there's a lot of definitions out there, but the best one comes from mindful.org. And they define mindfulness as the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. And the reason I find this definition of mindfulness the best is really that latter part of that definition. So mindfulness, yes, is about being in the present moment, but you're also not being overly reactive or overwhelmed by everything that's going on around you. Now, when I asked you to recall your morning, you were probably trying to think a million different thoughts, trying to recall this and that, but that's the whole point. You're probably overwhelmed as you're going throughout the day because you know you have so much to do, so much on your plate. And that leads to stress, right? And stress is ever present in our life. And it's defined as a physical, mental, or emotional factor that can cause us bodily or mental tension. And the thing here is stressors can be external or internal. So when we talk about our external stressor, these are things that are less likely for us to control. So they would be things like job stress, financial stress. Maybe you don't have a lot of time because you have kids and family and things like that. Those are our external stressors. Those are things less likely for us to control. However, the stressors that are internal, those are things like negative self-talk that we give ourselves, that need to always be perfect. We think we need to be perfect, or other people need to be perfect. We set expectations for ourselves or for other people that we can't ever fulfill. And that causes us stress when we can't fulfill it, or other people can't fulfill it for us. So think about where your stressors come from in life. And you probably have a mixture of external or internal stressors. And oftentimes you'll hear stress and anxiety used interchangeably, but while they share a lot of the same physical symptoms, they do vary, because anxiety, while stress can be linked back to a certain stressor, anxiety is that persistent feeling, regardless if there's a stressor present. So you can be feeling anxious without a stressor even present in your life. And so why does stress matter? Well, in a study of behavior and mental health, and it included over 200,000 adults, Lee et al. Found that people with diabetes were 20% more likely than those without diabetes to have an anxiety condition at some point in their lifetime. And about 25% of adults with diabetes will experience depression at some point. So it's widely recognized that the stress is linked to a host of negative consequences of people living with diabetes. And that can be your depression, to decrease physical and mental health, glycemic control, and just an overall decrease in quality of life. And the thing to keep in mind here is that stress varies from person to person. So what may be stressful to you may not be stressful to another person. And that's okay. Just because it's not stressful to another person doesn't mean that it's radical for you to feel stress in that situation. The example I love to use here is roller coasters. Everyone, all my friends, my family, they love roller coasters. This is how I feel about a roller coaster. I am stressed. Right now, just talking to you, my palms are sweaty. My heart is quickening. I don't have any desire to go on a roller coaster. That is a stressful activity to me. But other people love it. They find it exhilarating. They find it fun. So remember it. Things that stress you out in your life doesn't necessarily mean that other people find it stressful to them. So the impact of stress, well, acute versus chronic, we really focus on that chronic stress, which is this lingering stress. So our body's never able to get off of what is called a fight, a flight, or freeze response. So when you are in a traumatic event, your body's going to give you that surge of adrenaline. You're going to get those shortness of breath to get that quick supply of oxygen. You're going to have stronger contractions of the heart muscle. Your body is getting you prepared for a stressful event. But in acute stressful situations, your body's able to return to normal. Now, the problem is when we stew in this chronic stress and our bodies just marinate in these cocktail of hormones. And what that does is that increases our risk for stroke and heart disease as well. So while acute stress, our bodies have adapted to be able to fight off or flee certain stressful events. When we talk about chronic stress, your body's constantly in that state long after the event is over. So the impact of chronic stress is bad. And we can have respiratory issues. So if you have other respiratory issues such as asthma, that can further exacerbate those issues. Obviously, you have your increased risk of stroke and heart disease as well. And it can, obviously, as John mentioned, it can throw your blood sugar out of control as well. So stress is ever present in our life. And I don't think anyone can say they've lived a life without stress. So we want to look at ways we can help manage that stress. The first one is get active. Exercise and physical activity have the exact opposite effect that the stress effect has on the body. So if you want to combat that stress, a lot of people will say, you hear the term runner's high. If people go run, they get that kind of moment of bliss. That's the opposite effect that's going on in your body as a stress effect does. Write down the things that are stressful to you. Write down the things. Don't bottle it up inside. Find ways to write down little things that are stressing you out. Connect with family and friends. Having that social support is huge in managing our stress. Get more sleep. This is often overlooked in health. And John will tell you, it's my favorite aspect of health. I make sure I get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. I know I'm not operating at my optimal level if I don't get a full night of sleep. So we have to value our sleep. Unplug from those devices, especially if we are having problems sleeping. We spend all day at work staring at a computer and our phone. We get home, we stare at a phone and our TV. So unplug from those electronics. Take some time, find something that doesn't involve a screen that you like doing, and do something for yourself. And obviously the last one is to practice mindfulness and deep breathing. Right. So mindfulness, remember, about being in the present moment, immersing yourself in the present moment, and taking a couple deep breaths. Right. So when we are stressed, our breaths come from the chest, quick supply of oxygen. Remember, when we're practicing deep breathing, the easy way to do it is just put your hand on your belly, and that's where your breath should be coming from, your diaphragm. So those deep breaths, you want to take time just to calm yourself down, take some deep breaths from your belly. And the idea here is, with mindfulness, we want to build resiliency. And according to the American Psychological Association, resiliency is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. All right. So the idea here is that when you hear people talk about resiliency and they speak of resilient people, oftentimes we think that, well, they're just resilient because they haven't had a lot of stress. But that's not true. They face stress, they face trauma, they face tragedy, but they learn and they adapt in a way to use those roadblocks in their lives as positive stepping stones. They don't get overwhelmed and shut down. And that's what we're going to try to do with mindfulness, is build that resiliency to that stress. So the research behind mindfulness, well, in 2010, Hoffman et al. Conducted a meta-analysis of 39 studies, and they looked at mindfulness-based stress reduction and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. And so what they found is that those that participated in some type of mindfulness based strategy, they had decreased stress, anxiety, and depressive symptoms. In one study, participants were randomly assigned to an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction group and compared with controls on self-reported measures of depression, anxiety, and neural reactivity after watching sad films. And those that participated in that mindfulness-based stress reduction had significant less anxiety, depression, and somatic distress. Also, you have less rumination. And rumination is that turning our thoughts over and over in our heads, right? We think about everything that happened in the past or that may happen in the future. Oftentimes, those thoughts are negative, right? We just keep stewing in our own negativity in our heads, where we just turn over these thoughts over and over again. So as we practice mindfulness, we're less likely to ruminate over negative things. It also helps improve our memory. In one study, they took 2 military groups and gave one of them mindfulness-based meditation and the other one did not. And this was during a high stress environment for these soldiers. They were about to be deployed off into action. And then those that participated in the mindfulness meditation had a far greater memory recollection than those that did not participate in the mindfulness meditation. It also increases our focus. So if you remember me telling you to recall your morning, as you practice mindfulness, you're going to be able to do that with ease. It's being focused, being mindful in the moment, and being present. And it also decreases our emotional reactivity. So as we practice mindfulness, as we engage in our conversation and are present in the moment, we're not listening just to reply to someone. We already are formulating a response in our head. Instead, we're listening to understand. We decrease emotional reactivity. So if something's irritable, we're less likely to blow up at it immediately. We can take it in stride and build that resiliency. So in a study on your screen, they took 30 primary care clinicians and applied mindfulness techniques and trainings, and they had checkpoints at 1 day, 8 weeks, and 9 months. And even at the end of the study, so 9 months later, these clinicians self-reported that they had decreased emotional exhaustion from before they began, decreased stress, anxiety, and depression, and decreased depersonalization, which is this feeling of being alienated or feeling like you're going through something alone. So in other words, you feel like no one would understand where you are. As you practice mindfulness, you build that support system. You see that we all have stress. We all have things that can make us anxious. We all have things that can stress us out or make us sad. So as we build resiliency, we're going to look at more ways to create some positive thinking. And obviously that's what we want to do. We want to be happy, right? I think all of us can agree that at some point we want to reach this level of happiness. And Sonia Lumerbersky looked at the qualities happy people have. And the first one is they're more productive at work. Think about the times that you're angry, sad, stressed out. You're less likely to be able to focus on your work, turn in your work on time, give it your all. If you're happy, in a good mood, things are going well, you're more productive at work. Happy people also make better leaders. So think about the people in your life that you would consider mentors or leaders, and the ones that truly influenced you in your lives. Would you describe them as negative or happy? So happy people tend to make better leaders. Happy people are also less likely to get a divorce. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into divorce, so obviously it's not a catch-all, but overall, happy people less likely to get a divorce. Happy people also have stronger immune systems. You saw what the stress effect can have on the body. So as you become happier, obviously you have stronger immune system. They're more resilient. So remember, resilient people still face those stressors. They still face those tragedies. They still face those roadblocks, but they're able to take that negative situation and find something positive out of it. Happy people also live in the present moment, right? So as we live in the present moment, we're fully immersing ourselves in the present moment. We're not stressed out about things that happened in the past 10 years ago that no one's thought of but you. And they're not worried about the 50 different scenarios that may or may not happen in the future, right? So they live in the present moment. And lastly, happy people are more comfortable expressing gratitude, which I find is one of the most revealing components of being happy, is just comfortable saying thank you to someone. So what makes us happy? How can we become happier? Well, they looked at, does money make us happier? And they asked people making $30,000 a year, how much would it take for you to be happier? And those people that were making $30,000 a year said $50,000. If I had $50,000, I'd be happier. Well, then they asked people that were making $100,000 a year, how much would it take for you to be happy? And those people said $250,000. So if I had $250,000, I'd be happy. And the idea here is that no matter how much you have or how much you're making, it's human nature to desire more than what we currently have. And although we may be happy with 50,000 if we're making 30,000, eventually we're going to get used to that and we're going to want more. So we know money can't make us happy long term. Does stuff make us happier then? I want you to go ahead and in your mind fill in this blank. If I had that new blank, I'd be happy. Maybe it'd be a new car, new phone, new outfit, new watch, whatever that may be. Well, Nickerson et al. Did a study and took 20,000 freshmen in 1976 and asked how much they wanted nice things, whether it be a car, a watch, clothes, etc. And then 20 years later, the researchers asked those same people about those materialistic things. And that those that answered that they valued those materialistic things, whether it be that car, the watch, the clothes, they actually had a lower life satisfaction and had more mental health disorders than those that didn't value materialistic items. So while money may not make us happy long-term, you could argue that stuff actually could be detrimental. Valuing stuff over moments actually could be more detrimental to our health long term. And the idea is here that as we grow used to the things that we have, and that's known as hedonic adaptation. So we grow used to our positive and our negative experiences. And that creates this desire or this strive to want more. So the idea here is that our happiness, when it's linked to these things, and our satisfaction are not permanent. So if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, it's something known as the hedonic treadmill, and something we try to get out of. So I want you to imagine that you want a new iPhone, right? So that's that'll be at the top of that treadmill there. That's what you're desiring. So what are you going to do? You're going to strive to get it. You're going to save some money, put so much money away each paycheck, and eventually you're going to get that iPhone. And if anyone can recall, something brand new that they got, how much they enjoyed it. I'm going to show off all the features, look at the camera, look at what I can do like this, that, and the other. But eventually you adapt to it. You're not showing off those features to everyone, a year later. And the idea is we're adapted to that. We don't desire it anymore, and at least not as much. Instead, we desire the next best thing or more. And so what happens is it's human nature for us to get caught in this hedonic treadmill. And a lot of times you'll see companies and advertisers use this to their advantage. We don't need a new iPhone every year, but they come out with one every year because they know human nature is going to desire us. They're running a business. They know people are going to buy it, right? So how do we get out? How do we break this hedonic treadmill of just growing used to everything that we do? And it's causing us stress to just want more and more. And it's about savoring the moment. Right? So savoring is the act of stepping outside of an experience to review and appreciate it. Right? Being mindful in the moment. It helps us remember the good things in our lives. So it helps us keep us in the moment. We have an increased appreciation, increases our gratitude. There's another key word there again. And it boosts our mood. So just simply immersing ourselves in the moment, immersing ourselves in what's going on in the present moment actually has benefits to not only our health and our stress levels, but also allows us to just savor it more and increase our appreciation and our gratitude. So how do we savor more? Well, obviously the first one is staying in the present moment, right? Immersing ourselves. That's all what mindfulness is. It's also about sharing the moment with others or talking to others later about it, whether you are sharing the moment with someone else, and or if they weren't even there, if you tell the person about the moment later, just that moment, that increases your savoring. Thinking about how lucky you are and being proud of yourself. Or laughing. Think about the times that you've had full belly laughs, right? Where you can't even talk because you're laughing so hard. You're not thinking about something that happened in the past. You're not stressed about what you have to make for dinner later tonight or how you're going to pick up the kids or all these other things and tasks you have to do in your life. You are fully living in that moment and you're enjoying it. So that increases our savoring. Things that will decrease our savoring, not living in the present moment. So thinking about our past and our future, ruminating in those negative thoughts, or thinking about how a moment will come to an end anyway. This one always gets me because when bad things happen in our lives or negative experiences, think about it, we tend to stew in those negative moments, right? And we think it'll never end. But positive experiences, we always think, well, this moment's going to come to an end. It'd be great if we could flip that. Being let down by expectations, or telling yourself you don't deserve something. You deserve it. You deserve to be happy. You shouldn't feel pain and guilt for being happy. So what do we want to do? We want to monitor our self-talk and relax. So use assertive words. Instead of saying, I hope to, I'll try, I wish I could, say, I'm going to, I will, I want to, I can. Changing the way we talk to ourselves. And the idea here is when we say, I don't want to get fat, I hope I don't mess this up, I must not fail this test. What our brain actually hears is fat, mess this up, fail. So instead of doing that, what we can say is, I'm going to get slim and healthy. I want to do a good job. I'm going to pass this test. So what our brain hears then is slim and healthy, good job, pass the test. And then the last component of mindfulness that I really want to touch on is gratitude. And it's something that, you appreciate outside of its monetary worth and something that is freely given to you. Okay, so when we talk about gratitude, it's something that does not have to do with its monetary worth and something that's freely given to you. And the idea of gratitude is how it can boost our happiness. So participants in this study, they were divided into three groups, either a gratitude group, a hassle group, or an events group. And then they were asked to recall 5 things that occurred for them in their past week. So hassle group were asked to recall 5 negative things that happened to them. Gratitude group, 5 things they were thankful for. An event group was the control, just 5 things that occurred. Those in the gratitude group had a higher increased life satisfaction, increased optimism for the upcoming week, increased physical symptoms, and increased physical activity, up to an extra hour of exercise each week compared to those of the other groups. So participants, here's another one. Participants were asked to write a letter to someone that was kind to them or showed them acts of kindness and deliver it to that person. And what they found is just off of one letter, even 6 months later, people were happier than they were before they wrote that letter. Even 6 months down the line, just one letter of gratitude. So write a letter of gratitude to someone in your life, thanking them for what they did. Describe how their acts impacted your life positively and deliver that letter to them. You can also keep a daily gratitude journal. This is something I asked my mindfulness program participants to do. Just take 5 to 10 minutes out of each day and write about someone or something that you're thankful for. And then and be mindful when you write. Actually take time to savor why you're thankful. And then just real briefly as the closing, be present throughout each moment and each day. Mindful movement involves paying attention to our surroundings, our movements, our breathing, and our body. So ditch those distractions, the cell phones, the angst about our future or past, stress for job or home. Remember, this helps lower our stress and anxiety. So when we look at ways to really reduce those stressors in our life and really combat those, please make sure that you take some time out of the day, do something that you enjoy and something that is for you. Now we have guided meditations available for you online that you can access on the Gator Care page, webpage, or our Jacksonville Bridge page. That's a great way to practice mindfulness as well. But just remember to be present in the moment, live in the present moment. Don't stress about things that are happening in the past or the future. All right, I know I'm close in on time, so I'm going to end it right there. So thank you for joining, and I'll turn it over to John now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. That was fantastic. And again, I think it's a very important tool to use as we look to really deal with some of the stress that we face and have an outlet for that and learn how to capture some of those tools. So what I just put into the chat was just a post-program quiz. And again, that's just primarily to get attendance credit. We will send out a copy of this entire presentation to everyone that's on our mailing list. So that would pretty much include everyone that's on here right now. So we'll get that material to you as well. Now, I did want to offer to you on a limited basis, for those of you in Jacksonville, we do have some mindfulness cards that are kind of good little accompaniments to implement some of the things that Nick had reviewed there. So we have a limited quantity available that is left over from our Mindfulness Matters course. So if that's something that you're interested in, come see us in the Wellness Center next to the South Garage in Jacksonville. I mean, these are cool little cards, but they can also be found on Amazon for about $10. Now, I also want to let you know that we will have one more class in our Diabetes University curriculum. So this is almost a year-long venture. We won't have a class meeting in December, but we will wrap up with almost a very comparable discussion with the Champ Center, as they are going to share some strategies for optimizing mental health during the holidays. As many of us know, that can be a period of some strong emotions. So I've got representatives from the Center for Healthy Minds and Practice that are going to share a little bit of discussion about maintaining positive mental health through the holidays. And that, again, will be on the third Thursday of the month, which is going to be November 18th at 12 o'clock. So we're right up against the time. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and thank you again, Nick. If there are any questions, you can I'll stick around for a few moments there and can answer them in chat, or if you want to turn off your microphone, we can do it that way as well.